Welcome to Pathways to Greatness, the show where faith meets focus and potential becomes purpose. I'm your host, Jeff Forrester, mental performance coach, speaker, and believer that greatness begins within. Each episode, we'll uncover the biblical principles, mindset strategies, and daily disciplines that help student athletes, parents, and leaders just like you walk boldly in their calling. Let's step onto the path that leads to true greatness, God's way. Hey, welcome back to Pathways to Greatness podcast. And again, it's me, your host, Jeff Forrester. And on today's show, I have a returning guest, which is awesome. So on the show today is Brent Pohlman. He's the president and CEO of Midwest Laboratories. He also authored his first book is Leaders Look Within. And we talked about that on the previous episode. And we get into some of it in this episode as well. But he surprised me with the announcement that he has a new book coming out in 2026, and that's Leading with Zest. And where he breaks down the two books is the first book was more about self-reflection and the importance of reflecting in on yourself and becoming self-aware. Now, once you become self-aware and you've reflected, now it's time to take action. And Leading with Zest is about taking action. And so our conversation today is about both. It's about reflecting about a pivotal moment of change for him and his father personally, based on the passing of his mother and where that spilled into his workplace, but also compounded spiritually. It also compounded to how he showed up for not just his employees, but his family. And it all started with a simple sign that said, "How can we pray for you?" So when you think of something simple and you think of something that's involving change, how often is it something so small that we ignore? We move past that simple moment of, "How can we pray for you?" How can you use that phrase today to impact someone? Can you think of 3 people that you can text that to right now? You can hit pause, go to your phone, and type in those words, "How can I pray for you?" It will be life-changing, not just for you, but also for the person that you're reaching out to. It can make them uncomfortable. It can make them feel weird. It could also make them feel loved. It could make them feel treasured. It can make them feel heard. There's so many things that this can do. And then when you pray those prayers, think about how it's impacting you. And that's what change does. It doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be life-altering, or it can be life-altering, but it doesn't have to be just this big, massive thing. And because in my life, many times when I've tried to make huge changes, is something that I can't stick to. I've rambled. This has been almost 3 minutes, but I'm really excited about this one. If you can't tell, Brent is a guy if I was in Nebraska and I lived in the same town, we would meet on a regular basis. I really enjoy his insight. I enjoy his heart, the peace that he just exudes, and also his zest, his eagerness to try things, to always push himself to be better, to feel better. So that way he shows up for the most important people in his life. So with all that being said, hang on. This is a great one. So ladies and gentlemen, Brent Pohlman. Well, welcome back, Brent. You are a 2-time guest. This is very cool. I haven't had too many of these, and so I'm excited to talk to you again today.
No, it's great, Jeff, to be here. I can't wait to dig in and see what we're going to discuss today.
Yeah. So everybody, Brent was one of my first guests when I got the show started. And so we talked about the last time his new book at the time was Leaders Look Within. So I do have a few things that I wanted to touch on that, but I was excited when he sent me an email to let me know that he's got a new book coming out in 2026. But before we get into all that, Brent, how has life been going? I know that you've had some great travels and different things to see your son overseas, a lot of this. So how's everything been going?
Yeah. I'm truly blessed, Jeff. I mean, a lot has happened since the last time we talked. And, through all the trials, through all the things, again, I really just feel so blessed, and things are just, I'm really on fire. I'm really just excited about everything that's happening. And we know we're going to go through some tough times, and we'll get into that. I lost my father this year, but I think through it all, we can persevere. We can absolutely have courage and find strength in him.
For sure. And for those of you who may not follow Brent either on LinkedIn or Instagram, he puts out daily just his thoughts around a Bible verse. And I was curious selfishly, and that's what I wanted this conversation to be, is it's about us. It's not about an agenda. It's not about questions, just things that have popped in my mind. So you have such thoughtful discussions when you have a Bible verse and how it means to you. How do you, and this is again
Mm-hmm.
selfishly,
Yeah.
when you look at a verse, how do you go through the verse to come up with the thoughts of the impact that it has on you that day?
Yeah. You the Bible I've learned is just the secret to the answers in life. There are so many great nuggets, and when you dig in more and more, there's so many themes. There's context around those themes, but I think for me, it's just selfishly in the evening, I'll select the verse in the evening and kind of pray about it before I go to sleep the next morning. But it could be whatever mood I'm in at that time. Maybe I need more help on the trust side. Maybe I need a strong, healthy story about somebody or a disciple I'm relating to, or Jesus, finding strength in Jesus. I think, and I got to say this, I'm probably right now. I remember one time you sent me a note, and I posted something about finding strength, and you said, these were your words. You said, you need to find strength in him and not yourself. And those words just really resonate. Just, I had to think about that a lot. And that led me to the fruits of the Spirit. So I often refer to the fruits of the Spirit because that's where I find strength. So all these things together, I think I probably read a chapter in the book, in a particular book, and then some verse. Okay, I need to spend some time and really think about what this verse is saying. And that's really my simple process of picking a verse, reflecting on it, and praying about it, and then sharing it.
So
So
when you find that verse and it's that one that speaks to you, and somebody told me, um, I think it was even in the last episode, is that comes out when we're recording this on a Monday. This will come out tomorrow. Not yours will come out next week, but the episode I'm referring to is that if you don't think that you can hear God, read scripture out loud, and then that's how He can speak to you. And it sounds like that's something that resonates with you. So when you have that verse, because I know other people that may struggle to find, like, what does that verse mean? How can I apply it to my life that day? When you say pray on it, do you actually like pray? Give, like, what does your prayer look
yeah,
like?
well, I think my prayer is what you said. If it's not quite hitting, or even the next day, I've done this too. I pick a verse and then I'll change it the next morning, just not there. Then I need to say it out loud. I think to your point, when you say it out loud, then the words really do come alive, and you say, okay, is this really what I need to hear today, or do I need a different message or something like that? Because it's like preparing for a workout. Some days you're like right on, and some days you don't feel like doing it, and you can change. I've learned it's okay to change and change up your attitude toward that. But yeah, I'm typically working on something during the day. It is, for me, it's okay. I got to have more trust, or I got to have some patience today. And it really, if you really start with the fruits of the Spirit, which I'm finding I'm doing more and more, I need something about hope. I need to hear a message about hope. I like a hope message to start the week. I'm coming up with these themes all the time, and I think that's helps me. So when you kind of plan your day, what do I need today? Or what do I need to hear God tell me today? And then I think that's where really the magic begins. And then he'll show you in his word. He'll show you, and it may be completely different than what you are looking at, or show you a place. I'm finding parts of the Bible I've never looked at in my life until now, really. So, and if there's drawing more, better, bigger meaning, because sometimes you can read a verse and you don't know exactly where that came from. It's good to get some context around it. I think you have to do that too.
Do you ever feel like that you just can't hear?
Oh
You
yeah.
can't hear him, and that you just kind of feel like you're in a moment of not like desperation or distant, but you just kind of feel like you're in a desert and you just don't hear what he's trying to tell you.
Yes, sometimes it is that way, and it's in those times. I think maybe do you have your favorite set of verses? Then I have to go. I got to pull one out. It's like, okay, I'm not hearing it today. I'm going to go to John 10:10. I need to live life to the fullest, and then that's my confirmation verse. So I go back to that frequently. So if
That's a
I
good
can't
one.
find something, yeah, if I can't find something right away, I'll go back to like or John 3:16 even say, okay, I just need to be. I'm overthinking this way too much, and I just really need to go back. It's not that hard, and it's not that simple. And in fact, the message is even better if you say it slowly again and be reminded, hey, don't overthink this. God's working here. Go back to something that you're familiar with and reflect on that for the day.
Yeah, the one that I've landed on lately, it's a Psalms, and it just blanked where I think it's 46:10 or 43:10, but be still and know that I am God.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
That's like when anxiety gets crazy, and I've used it initially to get out of a negative ruminating loop and full of anxiety. And now I've started to learn to apply it also when things are going really well, is to
Mhm.
not forget where it's coming from. And that's
Yes.
been helpful because, and I'm just in that, being completely transparent. I'm in that. I know God's speaking. I know he's working. I know everything's there. And I just feel like that I don't hear everything. And maybe that's on purpose. Maybe that's him saying, I need you to keep looking for me and find me.
Yeah. No, I like that. I really like that a lot.
But it's tough. I mean, you kind of feel helpless a little bit when you just don't hear or see or find
hmm
the direction. It's like, wait a
hmm
minute. I know that there's
Yeah.
there's something going on, but man, I wish I could see it plain as day.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. And then for me to being grounded, I think I told you, I don't know if I told you this the last time. I can't remember. Doesn't matter. I start the day with my chief strategy officer. Every morning at work, we text each other. We pray for our family. We pray for our company. And we pray for any special meetings, intentions that we have going on every morning. That's just part of the daily routine, which is amazing. I've never had a coworker where I've ever been able to do that with, and the blessings from that, when you know that's coming, or you're gonna, you know, that's we start the day that way. I think that really just really again um, initiates or really that whole purpose and mission and vision that you want to have each and every day. So I really enjoy that.
No, that's awesome. It's funny that you brought that up. So I got your book out last night because I wanted to have something to talk about. And since you're a return guest, normally I always start with would you rather's and go through that. And I thought, you know what, we've done that before, and I'm just so curious of what's been going on. I thought, okay, I need to go back to his book. And again, that's Leaders Look Within. It's a great book for the listeners that are out there. It's not a heavy read. It's an easy, very application full type book. And it's also interesting that you mentioned about your father, because the chapter, because I just opened it and said, what do I want to find? And so I found chapter 8, and it's purpose driven change. And it's about after your mom had passed away, and about how you and your dad had walked in to a local coffee shop, and you saw the sign, how can we pray for you? So I could go through this chapter, but I would really enjoy the opportunity to hear you talk about that moment and how purpose driven change, how that applied to your business, because that right there is going to change my house, in the sense that I'm going to have a sign when people come in. That's the first thing they're going to see. And then also, I think the listeners, this can impact them as well. So, talk to us about how the purpose driven change of adding, how can we pray for you to your business and your
Yeah.
life?
Yeah, that was really a crazy, but actually a very, as you said, pivotal moment, I think, for me. when my mom died, she was a lady of prayer. My sister and I continued to find all kinds of prayer journals. She wrote down and prayed for. We had no idea she was praying for us, her friends. I mean, and then so after she died, I took it pretty hard because I don't think I wasn't ready for her to die. And I'll never forget. I said, I want to be more intentional about my faith. That was really, and that I didn't even know what I was saying. To your point, you don't even know what you're saying or what that looks like. I had no idea. And that's when really my morning routine of walks and getting out and just spending time with God really started. But I didn't know. And then God says, "Oh, I have a whole host of plans for you. Just wait. You want to be intentional about faith? Okay, maybe you're finally ready." Because I don't think I was ready at the time. I know I wasn't. And I was seeing things, and I just I didn't know where to start. But when my mom passed away, I didn't want my dad to be alone on her birthday. So in November, we went to this conference in Ohio, and it was good because again, my dad was probably experiencing more loneliness than I ever could imagined, even more so than myself. And we came into this coffee shop, and I'll never forget just seeing those words and that big chalkboard and all these people writing things. And I looked at my dad and I said, "I think mom's trying to tell us something here." I said mom, but I think it was God speaking through my mom. And yeah, so that day I said, "I think we need to do something like this at our workplace." So if you come into our main entrance, you'll see on the left, it's a big prayer wall. Anybody, employees, guests, visitors, can write any petition on there and know that it'll be prayed for. And prayer is so non-invasive. Everybody wants to be prayed for. Everyone wants to. When somebody says, "I'll pray for you," that is like one of the biggest gifts we can give someone. And so it has done. It's been a blessing, and it just crosses all the crap and cred, I'll just say, in this world today, and everyone gets caught up on DEI, all these other or HR stuff. It's a prayer wall. It's just, no, I'm not forcing it on anybody. It's not, but they just know. And then in the Friday update, I always put out a Friday update to the employees. I just list, these are the prayers that people or these are the prayers. So everybody, even if they don't walk past that wall, they know what things are concerns or what people are being prayed for. And again, I think it's just been a huge blessing for our company, for our employees, our guests, and yeah, just a simple prayer wall like that.
And it's such a powerful example. Thank you, for sharing that, because again, that's an applicable lesson that you can put into place right off the bat. And I know for me, when I started making that shift of really from being a believer in Jesus to a follower in Jesus, which there is a difference, um, is it started with prayer. It started with that conversation back and forth, trying to get closer and have that conversation, just like with your friends. If you and I could follow each other all day long on Instagram, but we get closer through these conversations. After the first one, we've stayed in touch. We have a relationship that's far beyond what most people have. The other part that really impacts me about this is I have a spiritual mentor. And one of the things that he did to really challenge me is we would go out to eat and we would always pray before we ate. And so when the server would come, he would ask and say, "Hey, look, we're getting ready to bless the food. And so while you're here, is there anything that we can pray for you before we go?" And sometimes they'll be like, "I'm good." And we had one instance that she left and then she came back. She's like, "Have you guys prayed yet?" He was like, "Yes, but we will do it again if
Yeah,
you've got
yeah,
something." And she just said, "I just want to give thanks to God because I'm a recovering alcoholic. It's been, today is like, I think it was like 90 days sober. And there was all this stuff. And you could just see the joy on her face that, like you said, is just somebody asked. It wasn't, "Hey, we want to, convert you to
mhm,
Christianity. We want to do that." It's like, "Look, we want to offer something that means something to us, to our God, and who we follow and who we believe in. How would you not want to take part in that?"
yeah, exactly. That's how I look at it. Absolutely.
And it's those little things, like you said, it's positive change. The other thing that's in this chapter that I really like is making changes at a rapid pace. That's the other part, the other subject that you talk about. And I know we did touch on this in the first conversation about just how you were just moving at such a rapid speed that you were just like bulldozing everything. And it's
Yeah.
a good way to stay busy. It's like what the devil said is that if I can't make you sin, I'll make you busy, and that can distract us from hearing from God and doing those things. So, talk a little bit about the pace of change, because our world is pushing pace, pushing speed, pushing just accelerate, accelerate, grind, grind, grind. So, talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the whole AI talk, I mean, everybody wants it's a race to be whoever's fast. I remember going just a couple of weeks ago, I went to a conference and an insurance carrier, major insurance carrier, the CEO said, it's a race. We want to get to AI first before the hospitals. Well, you think about that. What a broken system that is, right? Shouldn't the two be connected? Shouldn't we find the technology to work together between insurance companies and hospitals? And I kept thinking about that. And same thing with technology. We're trying to put technology all the time. And it really, for me, it really came to light. And I've written about it in this book. And I kind of emphasize it again. The second book is that people, process, and technology, always in that order. And when you put people first, then you will go further and faster than any technology or any process. And those three words together and in that order have just really, that was really where the light really shined on. And again, when we put people first, we're in prayer, we're praying. And like I said, we're praying for our people. It matters so much. The culture here, I can't tell you how much it has changed in the last 6 years. It is an amazing culture here. And it's only because we took the time to really work on our infrastructure. We didn't adapt all this new technology and try to force new technology in, but we worked on our people. And I think that's where the fastness you got to really, again, slow down and just see what's the most important and stick with what's the most important first before you get caught up in the whole speed of things. Cause that's where I was, and I was super reactive. And I think everybody wants the people who are super reactive, you're going to be too busy and you're going to miss out on a lot of things. You really are. I don't know how else to say that. You miss out on a lot of things.
Yeah, it's the reason why sit down restaurants are the Michelin stars and not the quick fast
Yes.
food, because
Yeah.
it's you take time, you're willing to pay for service, you're willing to pay for a connection, and that's where people roll their eyes when they talk about Amazon, which I get it. It's cost savings in this world, it's fast. But now you see supermarkets, Walmarts, all these other places putting in checkout, express
Yeah.
checkout lanes where there's nobody there.
Right.
And I always enjoyed the interaction of, how's your day? And then, with the invention of the cell phone, I get offended for other people when I watch them go through a checkout lane and they're on their phone the whole time. I'm like, there's a human being standing right in front of you. And
Yeah.
I know that it's the devil's work to break
Oh,
that personal connection between people.
it absolutely is. Absolutely is. That's why one thing here at our company, we will always have a live voice. Doesn't matter. None of this push one, push two, push three. You'll get a live voice every single time because that's the human connection, and that's faster. That could, again, think through it. Don't you want to go? Don't you want to get your question answered? How do you do that? By pushing some buttons and talking to a bot. It's a bot today that doesn't even understand really where you're truly coming from, and you have to say it over and over and repeat over and over these things. So I do think that the human interaction is so critical to really building and establishing and keeping those relationships.
Yeah, so and it's important. So a couple of the questions that you ask here, so I'm going to ask you because I want to tap into you. So for the listeners, just so you know, as I know I didn't properly introduce him in this conversation, and I will on the front end, but Brent's the president and CEO of Midwest Laboratories, which is a large company. So he has experience around change, and especially in the healthcare industry with all the stuff that's going on. So the first question that you ask the reader is when it comes to changes to be made, what criteria do you use to determine what type of change needs to be implemented? I would love to get your feedback on that.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I think again, you have to really, I try, and I've done this more and more, is you got to take a step back. You got to get out of the details and the weeds. I was in the weeds for so long, but to your point, so I take a step back. So let's talk about the process. I take a step back and try to go big, and then I'll review that again, and I'll go even bigger. And what I mean by that is, if the more you can step back and look bigger at the issue, you will see so much more. It's so easy to go down to the point or talk about a specific task even. But if you take the time to go and look bigger, you will see like a whole different world, and you'll be much more innovative, and change will actually, you'll see it's not so incredible or overwhelming, because I used to think change was a little bit overwhelming and you just had to do it fast and slam it in, or you're never going to get it done. And I think I was driven by deadlines. Take your time. I know that was hard for me. Take your time. And I'm not getting any younger either, but you just make better decisions. And I've got a big story about this and how powerful this could be. At some point, we should talk about that.
Well, let's dive in. There's no time like the present.
All right. Well, I want
I
to
would
hear
love to
that.
hear about it.
So we're moving our campus. We're in 12 buildings. Since 2019, we started with 110 employees. Today we have 310. Um, we are maxed out in our current 12 building facilities. So in November, you think back, November 2020, we were in the heart of COVID. We either were really smart or really stupid at the time, but we bought this data center and 27 acres, and the data center is 176,000 square foot, single story. So to give you some perspective, I mean, it's the largest single story building in our state of Nebraska. Um, we started down a process of, we were going to move everything over there at one time, get it all in. Our budget was 60 million. And 6 months later, in the height of inflation, it went to 200 million. You just go, oh, I can't do that. So then we said, we're going to move a third of our business. And our new budget was 40, and we're going to move our animal health or our pet food testing side of the business. The first estimate comes back at 90. I was like, shoot, it's still not there. So I will never forget. And the general contractor said, so it's 90. What's your budget going to be now? And I said, 30. And they go, you can't do that. I said, oh yeah, I can't do that. Because I had really thought about this and prayed about this. How are we going to make this happen? So we went from a budget of 40 to 30, and we got the estimate coming back. It was still at 55, still not there. We decided to make a change in partners. We said we're going to build on 100,000 square or 110,000 square feet. I will tell you today, Jeff, that we're going to start construction on January of next year at a budget of 35 million, and we're building out 110,000 of that 176,000 square foot. You tell me how that happens in today's world. It's through faith alone. And faith in your goals, and you just stay set and centered in what you believe, and you have to tell that story over and over, and you tell them that you're here for your people, that for your clients, for your employees, and you can make things like that happen. I've seen it. I mean, that is incredible to go from 60 to 200 million to, I know I throw these numbers out at my kids and they're like, Dad, what are you doing? They think you're crazy, but I really truly believe that faith can overcome all obstacles, even inflation in this economy. And you think about that. I mean, many people get anxiety today over what's happening and all the crazy stuff. But if your heart is in there and your faith is strong, you will be able to move mountains. And that's what I tell people.
That's a great story. And there's so much in that. One is that, you had a big number and then it became bigger number. And then you thought, how in the world am I going to be able to do this? And so there's so many times in life, it doesn't have to be in the millions of dollars, but you sit there and you're like, I don't know how we're going to be able to swing this. Like the math doesn't work with what we have. And a great saying that I try to remind myself is, Where God guides, he provides. And so you kept people first. And with the people first, your heart was in the right place. It wasn't about, hey, we can grow a profit margin first. We can do this. Like, no, how do I make this work environment effective for my people and for my patients that I work with and my clients? And so it doesn't mean that it always works that way. But like you said, with perseverance, and one of the things you talked about in the book is you talked about vision and having a clear vision. Without having that vision, you would have never known the path to take.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So, with all that was going on, why in the world did you decide to write another book? For people that, I talk about
Yeah.
writing books and it's not as hard as you think it is, but there still is a big commitment and discipline that you have to be able to put a book out. So, let's talk about the new book.
Yeah. So it happened, I think, about January of 2024. I was going to play basketball on our company basketball team, and I'm running down the court, turned my ankle, fell, fractured my lateral tibia. So I was 15. Let's see, I was 59 years old at the time, and now I'm out 6 weeks. So I had some time. I mean, I was working from home, obviously. I didn't go in, had to stay off of it. They asked me, and again, they talk about the reactive. First thing is they say, do you want us to, do we want to do surgery on that right away? Put a plate in there, bolts. And no, I'm going to do the 6 months. I'm going to heal it. I'm going to do it naturally because I believe it'll grow back better. So that there again, you're asked to do a fast decision. So many times, we're always told that we have no options but surgery or something like that. No, you always have options. You can work through that. And so I think with the second book, the first book is really a reflective piece of what's in your heart, and you have to pull that out and what's your true why, and get to understand yourself. Book 2 is, all right, you got all this information. What are you going to do with it? You got to take action on it. So leading with Zest is about, you got all this information, because I could be self-reflective the rest of my life and reflect on things. All right, no, you got to there's got to be an excitement here that you got to put this stuff to action, because we can do many big things. But again, what do we take the next step? It's easy to reflect back, and have a lot of gratitude, but when do you put that into action? What are you going to do with all this knowledge and information that you have now? And how can you really be an inspiration to others and yourself? And what do you still need? For me in the second book, it's really about coming together. And I learned this even through my having that injury and stuff, is family's critical. I mean, family is just critical. And the breakdown of the family causes a lot of issues. Just, you can see it in your employees. You can see where they come from with the broken homes. How much weight, think of that weight that's on some of our people every single day. If you have come from a broken home, I can't even imagine the weight. I didn't have that, but I can't even imagine. Or just think about a disagreement or argument you had yesterday or today, and how much that just consumes your mind and your day. Those things just, so it really, it comes back to that whole, even when you're getting ready to argue or fight, take a step back. Is this really worth it? Do I want to be even Steven, or do I want to go down this path of trying to fight? Or wait, what's the bigger picture here? Maybe that person, your wife, your kid, somebody's hurting. I should probably recognize, that somebody's hurting, because to your point, I missed that a lot. I was super reactive, didn't care, just was looking at superficial things. But if someone says something that's out of character, you know what? I'm going to just step back and say, okay, this isn't normal. I know this isn't normal behavior. Something's going on here in my head. I don't have to say it out loud either, but you can take a pause, and it's amazing the power in that. And people see that. Okay, and then that person might share more, just because you've taken the time to really get to understand where they're coming from, and not be so reactive, or even not caring. So I think a lot of that, again, all these things, it's not one thing, it's not singular, it's multifaceted. All these things are very complex and come together, but it's very cool. I've just found really a lot of peace and joy in seeing all these things come together, in growing in faith.
What's great, I really like the title. I think it's a great title because it gets you excited. Like, oh, okay, lead with Zest. How am I going to do that? And you don't have to run a multi-million-dollar company for this to benefit you. This is how do you lead your life with Zest? How do you lead your family with Zest? How do you lead your community? So we're all leaders, and it's just a matter of at what level. Sorry, the cat's going crazy, knocking everything off the desk. Um, and so, with that, you also said something that I want to make sure that the listeners really heard and pay attention to is you have to put things into action. We are, as a society, so good at self-reflecting and consuming. There's people that listen to this podcast. I listen to podcasts. I listen to books, and I'm guilty of listening, and it makes me feel good, and I get excited. But then I don't put the really powerful things into play. And that's what I like about the simplicity of your how can we pray for you? That's a simple act that you can put into action and can have massive impacts, not just on your life, but also the message and the light that you're trying to share with other people. So when I hear leading with Zest and I hear, the topics that you're talking about, it gets me very excited about it because we have to put those things into action. It's important to be self-reflective, like you said, but then moving forward. So what are some of the other topics within the book that you feel like the listeners can grab a hold of today?
Yeah, I think the other thing, I can't tell you what to. It's not I'm going to tell you what to do or you follow these 10 steps. You have to really find this for yourself. I share what I found or what works for me, but what works for me doesn't necessarily work for you. Um, and I think that's really important. But do we ever take the time to really discover ourselves? Even in the first book, I really didn't know who I was. I had buried stuff so deep, I didn't even know it, and it took a lot of conversations. And I just think that once you can find that out and know what you truly believe, then you can lead like we've been talking about at a higher level. Because before we're probably using somebody else's thoughts, or we're doing work for somebody else, or we're trying to please somebody else. But when you really want to do it for yourself, you're actually going to be a blessing to others because you will truly find what's most important to you, and you will find how unique you are. I share some weird stuff. There's some weird life hacks, and I'm what maybe you watch those too, or some of those things. Some of these things actually do work for me, or I do think that they're kind of cool. Um, and I think so I have a little fun with the book too. So it's not all seriousness, but you got to find some things that work. I drive my wife crazy with all my little life hacks, or I'll tell her, I'm trying this, I'm going to try this today, or I'm going to do this today. And that's not, again, I'm not promoting bad stuff or anything like that, but there is something to knowing our bodies and how they respond that really is, it's really for me. After having 2 fractures in 1 year, I can tell you the second fracture was my wrist. I slipped on the ice and fractured my wrist. So 2 fractures in 1 year, it gets your head thinking like, I need to do something maybe a little bit different with my body, and realize I need to take care of it. Maybe I don't need to go so hard. Maybe I need to mix it up with some mobility. And so now the home workouts, I just love the home workouts. So that's what I do. But again, you have to find it for yourself. And I will tell you, when you can get rid of the aches and pains in your body and live inflammation free, I lived with so much inflammation and I didn't even know why. And then you discover things and you want to be healthier. One of my big ahas was insulin resistance. I don't know if you've heard about that, but it's been around. But I was taking all these multivitamins, sugars. I could not lose the weight, save my life. It was just not going to work. And that's why you see this big craze for the Ozempic and all these other, things, but they're expensive. They're super expensive. But if you do, I just learned like fasting. I never did fasting. I always thought, I don't know if I want to do that. Fasting has been huge. I've lost like over 25 pounds just this year but again, I draw back to, how do you get healthy? How do you find out these things you can't keep taking pills and drugs the rest of your life. That's not a good way to live. How do you actually make a difference? And it takes some real work, and you're working at it all the time. But again, what works for me is not going to work necessarily for you. But if you can get rid of the inflammation, I tell you what, that you've just overcome a ton of things in your life. And that inflammation was big for me.
Yeah, and what's great about that, and again, I want the audience to really hear what you had to say, is it comes from discipline and awareness, self-awareness. And you have to say, I don't feel good today. So, what did I eat yesterday? What did I do yesterday? So, since we're both into being healthier, we do have our vices that we
Yeah.
go through. So, I was on a trip with my son, and we went to a restaurant, and we didn't want to wait 45 minutes to sit in the main restaurant. So, they had a restaurant downstairs, but they said you can't have any grilled options. You can only have fried or steamed or those type things. And I was like, okay. And so we go downstairs and they have a combo basket. I don't normally eat a lot of fried food anyways, but it just sounded really good because it was
Mhm.
fried oysters, clams, shrimp, a big piece of grouper, French fries. I was like, that sounded great. And so I eat it, and then my son gets fried shrimp, and we both felt awful
It too.
after.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
like yesterday, he's like, I don't want to eat anything all day. And he's a big dude. And then I felt bad. And because I grew up, my mom wasn't into doctors, but we would go to
Mhm.
chiropractors and do that. So I learned my body. And so the whole thing is rub around until you find something that's sore. And if you find something that's sore, rub it. And oh my goodness, Brent, there's this spot on my left rib. It feels like a donkey kicked me, but
Oh,
it's like my gallbladder area. And
oh.
it's like, okay, so I texted my mom and I was like, okay, what do I need to eat today to do a gallbladder cleanse? And so she gave me a list of stuff, but we do that with not just food. We do that with TV, with books, with music. It, it creates inflammation in our spirit when we listen to bad things, just like when we eat bad things. And like you said, they're finding out a lot about depression starts in the gut. And if you
Mhm.
have an unhealthy gut, you're going to have an unhealthy brain because God created the perfect creature. And so it all works together. And so I'm 52 and I want to be healthy when I'm 72. So the decisions I make today will impact me when I'm 72. And I know people don't think like that. And I'm willing
Mhm.
to make a few sacrifices now and skip the fried shrimp next time because I don't like the way I felt.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. And it really hit me. I turned 60 this year. So I thought 60 was old, by the way. I used to think that was so old. I'm probably honestly in the best shape of my life than I was in my 40s and 50s. So it has to be a choice. When I was 58, I went to my 40-year class reunion. I will tell you that, Jeff, this just blew me away that I would say 2/3 had retired or just quit. They were done with life. They were just done. 58. You think about that. That just hit me as like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for that. Where am I kept asking, where am I? What is this? What's going on here? But I think that's our society. We're just telling people, hey, you know what? You turn 65, you're on Medicare. You just, that's it. This is the way that it goes. You don't have, again, with faith, you don't have to follow the world's rules. You can absolutely live. Now, my basketball days, I don't know. I would step on a court, but I think my wife would probably kill me if I did something like that. I have to know your limits. But again, I think we, to your point, we have to learn. We can learn and grow and become much healthier, and it's really helped. My kids see the difference too. I'm a different person than I was, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So you can make this change at any time, any place that you're at in your life. That's the good news. And I keep reading stories about people in their 60s who've discovered health and they're running marathons into their 80s. Not that everything's like that, but to keep our brains sharp, our minds sharp, we need to be there for our families. I mean, that's what drives me. I want to be there for I have 6 grandkids. I want to be there, and watch them grow and stuff like that and keep up with them. I mean, it is a challenge to keep up with them, but I just see so many people giving up. I think that was the other part of writing the book is that I could give up. I could just sit on the couch after those fractures and not do anything. But again, what's your motivation? What really drives you, gets you up every single day? So I still have a lot I want to do before. as much as I can, God willing, could do. So yeah, no, I think it's a whole change in attitude and heart.
And what's awesome is you're leading your life like you lead your business, meaning that you have a vision, you have a goal, you know where you want to go. It's people first. So it's you, your family, it's them first. So you're leading yourself and making decisions based on, like you said, this big picture of vision. So I'll challenge the audience. Do you have a vision for what your life looks like? Do you have a vision for what you want your family life to look like in your spiritual life? And that gives you your true north. It gives you your compass and your direction.
Okay, I got to ask you. I know you left the professional world and you do what you do today with young kids. Doesn't that just energize? I don't want to speak for you, but tell me about what that. I just see you like being totally energized through the work that you're doing with these kids.
It's a great question, Brent. So thank you for asking. So I love it in the sense that you do get to make an impact and you get to hear these kids process through things, which I know their parents are having the same conversations with them. But as we all know, parent noise becomes white noise. It's mom and dad. They've been telling me to brush my teeth for the last 18 years, whatever it may be. So I'm just putting all of that into that. And also, as parents, the way we approach things is different than I do as a coach. So I do realize that you get to hear that. And what's great, back to what you were saying, is people first. Yeah, I wanted to make a living. I wanted to be able to do this to support my family, but I've not quickly, it's taken me 4 years to realize that it's not what's going to sustain my family, but it's what I love to do and what fills my heart. So I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep going through the act of helping young people that God brings to me. And through those 4 years, even though I may not have had the financial success that I had wanted to, I'm such a better person because of the conversations that I've had with these young people, because I learn as much from them as I know that they learn from me, because of the questions that they ask. The ones that I've been able to work with are really dedicated, they're really focused, and I also see the value in that. So much so I hired somebody like me for my son. So
Mm.
he's working with someone because he needs an outlet other than mom and dad, just like in the workplace. And I use this with a lot of people, and I use it in my book, is that I feel like every organization needs to have a dotted line that's not a part of the organization. So it's that safe place to be able to go and vent and ask questions and be challenged without fear of it showing up in my year end review or at some point, because we all hear something and we're human. We keep that, even though we say, nope, I'm not going to hold that against you. I'm not going to do that. In some way, shape, or form, it does resurface. Um, as it did for me as a leader. They would share things, and then I realized they're not telling me everything. Just like my kid's not going to tell me everything. They'll tell their coach, they'll tell someone else that's outside of the unit. And so for me, Brent, it's just been such a wonderful thing to see young people get a jump where I wish at 15, 16, 17, I had someone that was giving me the advice that I could hear and apply. I know my mom and dad were giving me those pieces of advice. I just wasn't, like you said, I wasn't listening. It was more self-reflection. And then I took it personal and not as developmental, but as they're getting mad at me, they're scolding me, that kind of thing. So it's been awesome to go through it, and now to see several of the players. I've got a few in college already, and I still talk to them. I have one that's getting ready to go to college, and then another one that's younger that's moving through. And then I also work with a dad, which is
Mm.
really cool as well, to see how he's going through the process and managing life as a dad. And I'm just a little further ahead than he is.
Yeah, no, I think coaches can play a tremendous role. I've worked with several too in my to get where I'm at. You just need an outside voice that is really holding you accountable and responsible and helping you grow. And I would say to our our executive team and our directors, we're really enforcing this whole need to coach. We need more coaches in the workplace than ever before. You're absolutely right on that. Um, Places, I like what you said about our employees need a place where they feel safe. They can talk about anything, because my goodness, you will hear everything. I mean, you will hear everything, and then how do we work through that? Maybe it's here. Maybe you're best served at it, and we'll help you find your next place. But we have to work with people. We try to work with people as much, and that's part of being a leader here at our company. Is you got to have some coaching. You really got to build your coaching piece of it, of your skill set. So it's huge. It's
And I
definitely
can't remember
huge.
if I told you this last time. And so I also do some executive coaching as well. And in the same day, I talked to a young man that was 15, and I talked to an older man that was in his 50s. They presented the same challenge.
Wow.
And I had this aha moment because I talked to the older guy earlier, and then the young man after school, and I went, they just presented the same exact situation, just with different examples, I guess is what I was
Yeah.
looking for. Is one was more in the professional, the other one was as a student athlete with his teachers and his coaches. And it blew me away that just because we feel like we're getting older, we're battling the same things that we've always
It is.
battled.
That's funny you would say that. Actually, last week I had coffee with my basketball coach from high school. He's a retired school superintendent, had a fabulous career, and we reconnect. We talked about the game, but then we just I said, what did you see in me or something as a player? And he said, you are a processor. He told me that you had to think about things a lot as you were on the court or if you were in practice. He said, but I liked that. You were always thinking about things. I never knew what my coach thought. It was so fun to go back and listen to how he thought about the teams or the parents that of the students. I had no idea that as a player that these things were going through his head. But what a fantastic way to keep connected, and like you said, just what you can learn from that. And we're going to stay connected. We're going to go and meet regularly, because again, I just think that bond. It was basketball, but there's a bigger thing here. It's really about how we lead our families, how we have our faith, and it was just fun. It was so much fun to visit with him and just see that whole have that conversation. We'd never had that conversation, so that was many many years ago. But it's just fun to see that whole process come together again.
And that's a great example that we all should really apply. We've talked about application and leading with Zest, which is Brent's book that's coming out in 2026, is getting back in touch with the people that made impact, one for our benefit, and two for their benefit, because he unselfishly was a basketball coach, and I'm sure he wanted to win, but it was about people. It was about the connection, teaching
Mhm.
people the game, and enjoying, seeing people work hard and do those type things. And the fact that you reached back out showed him that he made an impact off of the court enough to where you wanted to go back and talk to him. And that's a great also lesson of mentorship, where just asking somebody to go to coffee and then asking them questions is so valuable that you don't have to make it awkward and go, will you be my personal mentor? It's,
Yeah,
hey, can we do this again? Because I really enjoyed it and learned a lot.
yeah. No, it's cool. It is such a cool. People matter. It really is. Staying connected with people has really been a great way again to grow, not only personally but professionally and spiritually. I would say too. It just really is a cool way to stay connected.
Yeah, and you just broke it down in great buckets. Is finding a mentor that helps you with like personal finance, develop career development, those type things. So you have your personal, you have your professional, and then spiritual. Don't leave that one off. Find someone, and it was in the episode with Chris Granger. You can find a mentor that may be a lot younger than you, but has a faith and a wisdom and an understanding of scripture that far surpasses your age. So don't feel like you have to always look for someone older. Find someone that is really connected, and you'll know, your heart will tell you, is like, I got to get to know this guy a lot better.
Yeah.
Well, Brent, thank you. Here we are. We're almost at an hour, and I know that you're a busy, busy man. So, is there any parting words that you'd like to leave the audience with today?
Yeah, I would say I would follow up by saying if you're stuck, because I think we all get stuck from time to time. I'm going to use your words if that's okay, but find strength in Him, and really just dig into the fruits of the Spirit. I have found that that's where I find my strength. It's not how much weight you press or the dumbbells, but it's really finding strength in those fruits of the Spirit: the love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, and really take a look at those and see how you can be stronger in those areas, and ask God for help in those areas. And then my final thing I will say is, one thing that's really helped me in leading at home and at work is pray. If I get stuck with, and I should have said this earlier, if you get stuck with prayer or a verse, just pray for clarity. Take a second, be still, like you said, and pray for clarity. I started doing this probably about 5 years ago. Just say, I just need some clarity here. I open my heart, or I'm not seeing it, or I'm not, things aren't happening. And the power in that, by asking for that request for clarity, it's going to look much different than what you thought it was going to look like. That's what I found when praying for clarity, is typically our ways and the way we look at things are not the same as what God had planned for us. And it's much better. And it's so different. So that's what I would leave you with. And thank you again. I really do mean it. I mean, your videos, and the way you show your family and your son excelling on his football team. I get glimpses here, but I can tell it's so impactful. And those things are just precious, the time to be there and witness all that. It goes so fast. I'll just say
Oh,
that. It goes so
too
fast.
too fast. I'm going to try not to get choked up. It goes incredibly quick, and then my daughter's bringing that in as a 15-year-old. It's going nuts. Well, Brent, how can people find your first book, and then when can we expect the second book?
CEO of yourheart.com. It also has it has the old book, and it has the new book. The new book I'm hoping to have released in January. I don't have a firm date yet, but I'm thinking January it's going to be coming out here. We're going to finalize here in the next couple weeks, but that's probably the best place. And on LinkedIn, as you say, I just post a video, a testimony, or just a thought. It's just basically a thought I have for the day. Maybe it resonates some days, maybe it doesn't. Again, it's part of my routine in just really reflecting, and then just taking some action. Why would I can do all this reflecting on a verse, but if I don't take the steps to share it, then people never know where I'm thinking. And again, it's not about me, but I just do it as part of just a really good process of getting grounded and I want to bring my A game every single day. I used to think that was the way to sweat it out and get stronger that way physically, but there's much more. There's a mental, there's a spiritual aspect that's so much more powerful. And when you really put those three things together, you can do, again, tremendous things.
Awesome. Well, Brent, thank you. I really enjoyed today. This was a lot of fun. I didn't have anything written down, so this was truly the Holy Spirit at work today,
That's awesome.
directing the conversation, and that's what I was eager for, and I knew it was going to be great. So, Brent, hang on one second when we finish. But, ladies and gentlemen, Brent Pohlman.
All right. Thank you very much, Jeff.